Hi everybody! If you have never met me before, my name's Madeline. I host a podcast called Embrace the Madness and I'm a DJ. I go by the name Maddo. I'd like to do something different today. I've recently started doing tarot readings. If you want a reading, you can do so. I can provide the link down there. But I wanted to see what other kind of free content I could offer to my audience. And one of the ways that I thought of was doing collective monthly readings. So I offer individual month ahead readings. So if you want to do that, you can. But I also thought I could share with my community what I'm feeling called to share, and a spread just for the collective. And yeah. So this is the first one that I've done, so I'm sure it could change and evolve. But today I wanted to share about this idea of equanimity. And if you've never heard of equanimity before, it is a fancy word that means not too much on one side, just very balanced. You know, it's got the root prefix equa, which means equal. And so it's really just kind of this idea that you're just like level-headed and level-minded and not too much on one or the other in terms of feelings and emotions. So the message that came through for this reading was moving away from this deep immersement in our feelings in such a way that's kind of unhealthy and could be detrimental. I think that it's so important to feel our feelings, and yeah, I do it too. I tend to intellectualize them, but I'm also sometimes in the past have been like just so, and it's really helped to move to this place where not like nothing triggers you, because I'm sure it's possible, but just this idea that you don't have like a humongous reaction one way or the other. It's definitely a practice, but just kind of moving away from this like really just intense feelings, wearing your feelings on your sleeve, moving towards this idea of like balance scales, less of the like black and white duality and more of the neutral, just the neutral, go with the flow. And something too that is really important part of this process is how our thoughts can conjure certain emotions. And sometimes we have thoughts that are triggering the deepest, worst, most yuckiest feelings. And a lot of times it's because of the way that we're thinking about something or the reaction. It's those thoughts that tell our brain to trigger this emotion. So like if I have a thought that work is hard, then I'm going to have a reaction emotionally based on how I feel about, doing hard things, or what I feel like doing hard things takes, things like that. If another example comes to me, I will share it. But when we can be so swift and intentional and quick about our thoughts, we can actually kind of like halt it before it gets to be really bad. And like I said earlier, this is such a practice because we are having to retrain our brains to look at things as less scary. This whole idea of being completely immersed in your feelings, a lot of it is because our body is seeking safety. And when our body is seeking safety, it's like, oh, hell no, like this is gonna mess me up. Our brain thinks that it might kill us, but most often they're just these thoughts that are really scary. And I share a lot about it in my podcast if you're interested in more of the neurobiology of kind of peace and what the fight or flight kind of reaction entails. I can link that also. But going back we really have the power to stop these really intense emotions before we even get there. And I guess it's important to differentiate between feeling your feelings and avoiding them, I guess, because I think that once we, like we don't want to live in fear or misery 24/7. I think that, if we're going through certain parts of our lives or looking at our traumas, we can validate those really, really intense emotions that we experienced. And I think it's so important that we do, because we have every right to feel how we feel. Sometimes it's irrational, and that's just the way it goes. But, it's important that we don't revisit those really, really uncomfortable, hard feelings, almost as like beating a dead horse is coming to my mind. But like, we don't want to do that to ourselves. We don't want to punish ourselves. We don't want to constantly live there in those dark feelings, because, at a certain point, it's just hurting ourselves. At a certain point, it's no longer serving us to keep forcing ourselves to feel these feelings. And so really a lot of this message is about feeling empowered and feeling called to be vigilant. And that is to be vigilant with these thoughts. If you've ever heard of the metaphor of being like a tall, still, sturdy mountain, and the thoughts are just kind of like clouds coming around. They can come and they can go, but they never stay, like everything is temporary. But by being vigilant as the mountain, we can choose which thoughts we want to latch onto. We can choose what we want to visit, and we can choose what we don't want to visit, So this message is really calling us to get really, really in tune with and aware with these thoughts that are surrounding us. We have the power to choose if we're going to, go down that path again where we are just like making ourselves feel these really yucky feelings. We also don't have to do it in a way that is malicious or like, well, I can't think this thing and I have to stop it now. Because a lot of the grace here is for remembering how we are human, and our minds are going to have thoughts. We are constantly generating thoughts and beliefs about the things that we see around us. And so we don't have to criticize ourselves, and we don't have to shame ourselves, because this again is creating more of those feelings that are harming us and forcing us to feel something when we're trying to like stop feeling it so much. Remember that it's normal to feel these feelings. It's normal to have thoughts. It's normal to have sometimes more clouds than other days, going back to the mountain metaphor. We just must remember that we don't have to live there. We don't have to keep beating the dead horse. We have the power to be kind to ourselves when these things arise, because it's inevitable. We are humans. We are prone to irrational thinking, and the more kindness and compassion we can show to ourselves and this whole kind of process of what's happening, the less intense our reaction will be. And this is again going to this idea of equanimity. We don't have to completely just like freak the F out because we made a mistake or because we backtracked again. This is so important that we offer ourselves grace and compassion, because not everything needs this hugely intense reaction. Not everything is life or death. Going back, our brain thinks of it that way because we have evolved over time to, view danger as other things. But hopefully this is painting a picture to where you understand this need for our swiftness and our quickness in our thinking process and our thoughts, and really just observing. And the image that I'm also getting is like razor sharp focus. When we can really tune in and slow down, we are able to see things. It feels like they're not moving as fast. And when things aren't moving as fast, we feel more confident and safe to be able to kind of unpack all of these things. So we're being guided. We're being guided to pause, to slow down, to pause before we, fall down that rabbit hole again of just like, feel this horrible feeling so you can feel bad. So again, from this clear, neutral, balanced place, equanimity, we can create this safe, calm, and relaxed environment for our ideas to come through, for our creativity to come through, for, just all of these opportunities to come through. Because I think what happens is when we create this really reactive, toxic is the word that's coming to my mind, environment, it's just that. It's not a good environment for these new, fresh ideas to thrive, because, they might always get shot down. Or this neutral, clear environment is going to help us identify with, and I was thinking of channeling, but really just connecting with this most creative and expressive self. And when we can start to let those feelings in, we begin to create the belief and build the belief that we do have a sense of power, and we do have a sense of control, and we are connected to this divine creator. And we remember that, beyond the depths of these human emotions, we are in control. We have the power to create anything at any time. And these emotions end up being, we realize, illusions. Like, not everything is so terrible. Not everything is so awful. Really, things are actually quite good. We might be addicted to the struggle. We might be addicted to the dopamine of and the cortisol of all of these really awful, intense emotions, Really, really quiet your mind and slow down so that you remember that you have everything you need. Everything you need. Everything you need is inside of you. The card that came through, I'll share this spread too, for anyone who's interested. But the card we are being called to embody is the King of Wands. And this is the one who sits on their throne with no fear, no doubt, no worry, only trust and power and belief and confidence and knowledge, and really trusting that they can do and be anything. They know that they are connected to source, and they know that nothing is going to stand in their way, And going back to this mountain metaphor, the King of Wands is really still, and they know that these thoughts they're going to come. These clouds are going to come, but they let them pass. They know that they are just coming and going, and they know that anything that they give focus and energy to grows. And that could also include, these really intense emotions. They know that we don't need to beat a dead horse. They know that, they can feel the humanness of this moment, but they don't have to just dive headfirst into the misery and, the yucky environment. So really embody this energy of choosing where to shine your light, choosing where to shine your focus. Know that what you focus on will grow. When we constantly think about how awful and yucky everything is, we actually seek out all the ways in which that is true. Our brains want to validate us, and they want to prove us right, so they seek out and we focus on all the things where that is true. And so we're really being called and asked to acknowledge this and to acknowledge how this happens in our own lives. And really, I lost where I was. And we're being called to know that what we focus on will grow. And we're being called to ask ourselves, what is it that we want to grow? What is it that we want to create? Where can I now focus my energy so that I know I will grow this beautiful garden? We're also being asked to remember that every single tiny action, big or small, will add up to create big movement. I feel like I've been being shown all the ways in which little parts make up big things. I don't know if I think it was in Finding Nemo, but all the little fish made up the big fish, and the big fish looked like it was swimming. Those are all little tiny baby steps that are creating this bigger picture. And we must trust that with our focus and with our intention, when we put that energy into something, we're going to see the yield of our efforts. And a lot of times we are going to fall prey to doubt because we are human. Doubt that any of this is working. Doubt that anything we're doing is making a difference. But we're being called to embody that King of Wands and really trust that this effort that we've been putting in, this intention, is going to see a reward. And we'll soon be able to see everything that has come as a result of it. So it's a really good message. And I think learning how to, calm our nervous system is always a good practice to do, whether that's through intentional breathing or guided meditations, all sorts of things, which actually have tons of resources and things I've created to help you on this journey. And again, you can check out my podcast. It's free on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and lots of other ones. But yeah, I think it's so cool to be chill and to really tune into ourselves and our power so that we can begin to create change in our life and create good in the world. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm excited to start this going. I really do love sharing what's on my heart and sharing messages with y'all, and it's an honor and a pleasure, and I will check you out in August.